Something like that.
Oh, yeah. All right. Welcome to the NASCAR Live Chat with Hamm. If you don't know me, I'm a 25 NASCAR retired engine builder about 7 months ago, and was a 7-year man in NASCAR. And I have with me today Bill Ingle, who was, you want to tell about yourself?
Well, I'm a 25-year retiree, but I've been retired over 10 years now. I was back in the sport when it was really a lot of fun to be involved in NASCAR.
Yep. Back in the day.
The good old days. Everybody talks about the good old days.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days.
You know, that's what I think. Like whenever I started, I was around 94. And I was like, I wanted to start back in the late 80s because I think, or mid to late 80s, I think that would be the absolute perfect time to be in NASCAR.
It was fun. The early 80s, late 80s, and even the early 90s up to the 2000s were really pretty good years to be in it.
Right, yeah, because my last year going to the track was in 2001, or my last year traveling with a team was in 2001. But then I was of course, I built engines up all the way up until 7 months ago. But all right, so we got some of our listeners, watchers here. We got Chad Hyder, what's up, Chad? And Terry Quinn, and my wife, Hamm, Tracy Hamm, and Paul Rodriguez, Augustin, who is, I believe it's in California, and Terry Quinn's in Oklahoma. Rachel's down in Charlotte, and April Webb is here in Statesville. Chad's in Ohio. So Tracy actually had the first question for Bill. How did you get your start into NASCAR? Which is one of the notes that I had. I was going to ask you about too.
Well, I actually got my start in NASCAR. I've been a mechanic basically all my life since I was a kid, growing up on the farm, doing, if something broke, we didn't call somebody to fix it. We fixed it. And one of my uncles told me once, I had a Z28, had disc brakes on the front. I'd never seen disc brakes.
Yeah.
And I was worried to death who was going to fix it. He said, "You're going to fix it." He said, "If somebody else made it, you can fix it. You're smart as any other mechanic." So sure enough, I did. Got the parts, got a book, looked at it, read it, fixed it. Well, I got me started into mechanics, and I just was one of those guys around town as a gearhead.
Yeah.
Put models together, and I actually learned the parts of an engine and the cars by putting model cars together as a kid.
Yeah. I did the same thing.
Yeah. So when you start working on them, you're already, the parts are relevant. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So and any time I had a problem with something, I'd get a book, read about it, and fix it.
Yeah.
And I started my own automotive electrical business at 18 years old. And that's what actually propelled me into NASCAR.
Yeah, there was a place over in Salisbury when I went over there one time, and I took my alternator, or I had them add, I don't remember what I was doing. Maybe they were getting an external regulator, alternator, doing something to it. And they said, "Hey, you work in NASCAR, do you know Bill Ingle?" And he's like, "Yeah, this used to be his business," which for whatever reason, I thought it was your dad, but
no, it was me.
It was you. That's a misconception people think about it. For whatever reason, it was your dad. But what did he do?
My dad was a professional gambler. He was a poker player.
Yeah, about that.
Poker player, pool, pinball, you name it. That's how he made his money.
Down in Mooresville.
Down around Mooresville area.
How about that? So so then you decided, you started your own alternator business, but how did that propel you into? Well, how did you start that?
How I started?
Because
it's a long story, but I'll tell it real quick. Try to abbreviate it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I took a girl on a date one night to a drive-in theater, which was up here in Statesville back then. For you older people, you know what a drive-in theater was. Some of you young ones may not. But anyway, we'd sat there all night long, and it was in the wintertime. Started the car, and it would start every time. When we got ready to go, the movie was over, and my car wouldn't start. So I walked through the whole area of the parking lot trying to found a guy that was willing to take my girlfriend home. But he wouldn't take me home because he didn't want anybody to sit in the back seat. His tires were broke.
And you didn't look as good as her.
And I didn't look as good as her. So they took my girlfriend home and called a guy that I used to work for on the weekends at a service station. And he brought his wrecker up, towed me home. Well, we worked on Saturdays till noon. We got off work at noon, and some of my buddies, we went down to an old, it's called a speed shop on Independence Boulevard
I remember
in Charlotte. We went down there, and we were walking around getting parts for our hot rods. And I saw a book on automotive electrical. So I bought that book, and on the way home from Charlotte, sitting in the back seat of the car, I learned about what I needed to check when I got back home. I got back home, fixed my car, and it was like I was meant to do. I think God blesses everybody with an ability. That was my ability. He blessed me to do. And when I started, it grew and grew and grew. Well, I had a friend working for Junior Johnson, Jeff Stutz from here in Statesville, and they had an electrical problem. They were testing in Daytona with Darrell. and they had an electrical problem. And he said, I know a guy who can fix this thing. They messed around for hours. And finally, Junior told my buddy, Jeff, said, give him a call and see what he says. So they called me. I told him what to do, fix the car. Mm-hmm. Junior said, bring that guy to meet me. Oh, and that's where it all started. Cool. That's where it all started.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a great story. My getting into NASCAR, this is actually how I got interested in cars. Was I had a dirt track car and I was 15 years old, and I just bought it, or my dad bought it for me. It's a little Toyota Celica, I think 1974. I think it was a Celica or a Corolla or something like that. And it wouldn't start, but it would, as soon as you turn the key, it would start, but as soon as you let the key off, it would cut off. And I know you know what that is, but it was basically whenever people gutted the car and they cut the wires and they took out you had to start a car on 12 volts, and they cut out the resistor wire, which you would back it down to 9 volts and run the points. And so I was like, how cool is that? Because my neighbor, his name was Gene Thrasher, come over and he had a jumper wire, and he jumped from the coil to the battery, and the car started. And I was like, how did you do that? It was like magic. So I was hooked ever since. Yeah. And then I saw my dad would when we go to dirt tracks, he would look like he was amazed at some of the guys over there setting time and stuff. So anyway, that's when I got really interested and thought, this is what I really need to do.
Yeah.
We had a comment from Chad Hatter, said, Bill, you still look like $1 million too.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
He does. Look at him. He's a muscle man.
No, I'm not.
He's just he's in great shape.
I've since I was 17 years old. And it's about diet, and I've worked out. I've worked out my whole life.
Diet and discipline.
I'm a very disciplined person. Yeah. To a fault.
Yeah, well,
really to a fault sometimes. Well, you just had dinner with me. You see what I'm like.
I know, and I got the same thing that he got, except I'm not picky either. So I got loaded everything on it, and I probably need to be a little more picky. I mean, like that. But speaking of that, you were actually into boxing and stuff too at some point, right?
Yeah, as I grew up on a farm, so as a farm boy, you can't play school sports. Although I was a big boy in school, all the coaches wanted me to play, but my grandparents raised me.
You couldn't commit.
I couldn't commit. I couldn't do the games and stuff. So, I missed it. I wanted to do it as a kid, but you have to eat too. Yeah. And if you live on a farm, you have to do your fair share of work.
Right. Yeah.
So it's when I got old enough and left home, I joined the boxing club. Started weightlifting and boxing. I boxed for 4 years, Golden Gloves in Charlotte.
Wow. Yep. That's crazy. How old were you when you did that?
From 18 to 22.
18 to 22. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What's up, Brad? Brad Downer joining in. Hello, David and Bill. And RD Ford. RD's, I believe he's up in Michigan. I'm not sure. And River Rat. Hey, River Rat. So yeah, I've got some people coming in. So I know that you said, someone might have said he states that he can pull an engine apart and put it back together by the age of
12 years old.
12 years old, you did your first engine.
Yeah.
Is that the one you did with?
Yeah, my cousin and I, we took a 304 6-cylinder and built a motor for a dirt car, and we put that thing together with STP. We lubed the cylinders all up with that stuff, and back then you didn't know better. You learned the life lessons. 12 years old.
For sure.
We got that thing put together, and we tried to start it. It wouldn't. The starter wouldn't start it. We pulled it with an 8-in Ford tractor. It would slide the tires. We ended up having to pull the cylinder head off of it, clean the cylinder walls with Marvel mystery oil and kerosene to get all that STP out of the cylinders.
Yeah.
And then we finally got it to start.
That's funny.
Yep.
Man, yeah. So you actually started your racing career, NASCAR career, I should say, in 1983, because before that you were going dirt tracks.
Dirt tracks, yeah, Carolina Metron, places where some of the guys, all the local guys around here, Dale Earnhardt, that's where he raced.
Metron.
Yeah, Ralph, his father actually taught my ex-father-in-law how to drive a car and built the cars and maintained them for him. And Dale was a crew chief. Dale was crew chief on that car. His name was Gray London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, way back then.
Very cool.
55 Chevrolet.
My start was at Carolina Speedway.
Yeah, I guess
that was the dirt track that I used to go to when I was a kid. And my brother-in-law raced there. But so you worked with. All right, so we got a list of how many drivers you actually worked. Well, I say drivers because I know how it is. Being in NASCAR, you can work with 18 million different drivers because
but
some substitute and all this kind of stuff. But we should probably go with what teams that you work for. Junior Johnson,
Bahari Racing. I started the team for Ricky Rudd. I started the Diamond Ridge team for Gary Bechtel out of California.
Oh yeah.
That was worked for Stavola Brothers.
Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network was that car.
That was after in maybe 95.
95, 96. Yeah. And then worked with Billy Meek Stavola from New Jersey area when they had their car, the radio, so it's called Circuit City.
Over in Harrisburg.
Harrisburg.
Strickland.
Strickland drove for us,
Yeah, how about that? And then you had Alan Kowicki.
Worked with him 2 different times, 2 years, and helped to start the Haas team now that Tony Stewart's part on the road. Tony was not part of it when I was there.
So that team was that okay? So you had Bahari right there in the Lakeside Park where I worked.
Exactly. Yeah, he built the first actually fancy race shop back then in 1990, maybe somewhere around there.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's when the first Garage Mahal was what they were called.
Okay, so that was just past the pond on the left, right?
It was on the right when you start on the curve.
Oh, you go down
the hill, Bahari building.
Okay, yes. I didn't realize that was actually Haas before.
No, that wasn't Haas.
Oh, it wasn't.
That was Bahari.
Yes.
The Haas team started over in Concord in Darrell Waltrip's old shop.
Oh, okay.
It was over across from the Speedway.
Right. I remember that shop.
Yeah.
The Western Auto Shop.
Yeah, the Western Auto Shop. That's it.
Okay. Very cool. And then the Kowicki shop was down there near the Speedway.
It was on Republic Drive. Yeah.
And that shop's in a bunch of different.
Yeah. And a lot of different things. Yeah.
Very cool. So if y'all have any questions, y'all can throw them out here right now. But I'm gonna roll in a few things that we got going on. Well, Rachel Rodman says, what was it like to work with Kowicki? So, and Rachel's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
She does a lot with the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But it was a different experience because I think we had 8 people in the shop to work with, and we basically did it all. It's not like it is today where you had each individual had a certain thing to do. You did it all, And of course, I was pit crew. I was a fabricator. I was a mechanic. If it needed to be done, we did it. I guess the only thing I never did was I never painted a car. But I wasn't above going in the body shop with the Bondo and getting dusty. I would do anything, but I never sprayed a car because naturally the painter wants to do that because that's the best part of painting a car is actually spraying the paint. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And you were, so you worked in, you were a jackman also.
Yeah, I was a jackman. I've actually changed rear tire, front tire, jacked, cleaned the windshield, handed the driver a drink. Yeah. I've done every position but hand the tire in. That's the only thing I never did on the pit crew.
How about that? Because I started out doing the sign and then handing the tire, pulling the tire, pulling the air hose and that kind of stuff my first year in 95. And then I became a jackman the next year. But that's another story. But Hamm, can you get Bill to sign one of bumper stickers for me? Sure. River Rat. There you go. I can do that.
I'll do that for you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, cool. Thank you. Rachel Rodman says. All right, so yeah, we're going to roll into some of the NASCAR happenings right now. First of all, well, I should say, normally I start out with a bigger introduction, but I really wanted to get Bill talking because, we're probably on a little bit of a limited time, but I don't want to hold you up too long.
No, we're good.
But we want to talk to you quite a bit. So, but we're in the Randy Marion studio here with WAME, and this might be my last NASCAR live chat here because we're actually going to be moving to the other studio before long. So I think, well, actually this Saturday we're moving. So it's probably going to be my last NASCAR live chat here. I may do some over in Signal Hill location. And then next after that, it's going to be over in the Clock Tower. Maybe I'll have my own NASCAR live chat with him backdrop, which will be very cool. But I did want to mention that Bill Simpson suffered a stroke December 13th, and he actually passed away today. So our condolences go out to Bill Simpson. And that was, and then one of the things we don't talk about that. So I want to go into some of the. Did you ever meet Bill? I'm sure you met Bill.
Oh yeah, I met Bill Simpson.
Okay, because I can't say that I've really
ever talked to him. Yeah, he was a character. Well, Bill Simpson and a lot of the old guys, they were just so much fun to be around. They were characters in their own right. They were fun to listen to their stories and tell the stories and do things. And that's the thing. NASCAR is still good today, but it's not what it used to be back then. You had fun because people bantered off each other, made fun of each other, and picked and had a good time. And it's too much all business nowadays.
Well, and you're a good example of this. I think that a lot of people, just like Bill Simpson, he actually was a racer, and then he got into doing the seatbelts and stuff for safety improvements in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Just like you were, you actually were a racer too. Not necessarily just because you drove, but you were just a racer at heart, Whereas nowadays it just seems like we have all these engineers coming in out of college and they're like, well, I'm going to go into NASCAR and I'm going to go and I'm going to change everything, this kind of stuff. But they're not like true racers in my opinion.
They're not dirt under the fingernail racers.
Yeah.
They're not working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and then getting back up at 5 and going back to the shop.
Right.
Like we did.
That was what I was going to bring up earlier, that y'all had to actually work a lot of hours.
We worked a ton of hours.
And you had to drive to the tracks.
Then drive to the tracks.
Because I know, my wife.
That was the good old days.
I know, right?
Yeah, I prefer airplane.
But you know what? That's what built so much character in these older racers.
Well, that's why we were so passionate.
True racers, I should say. Yeah, and y'all were passionate about it because you put your heart and soul into these cars and everything. I used to get a little bit aggravated whenever I was building the engines and doing all the machine work and doing all this stuff. And now I get to the racetrack. And then we'd have our pit crews the guys that would show up on the weekends.
Sunday.
And then they would get mad at whatever was going on. I'm like, why are you getting mad? Are you really got your heart and soul in this? Or are you here to get your paycheck and to be on TV and all this stuff? You know what I mean? So it was totally different stuff back then. So Scott Travison's joined in, Beer Man. Sorry we're late. We just watched the Rocket launch, the Falconettes. He's down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my buddy Beer Man. So we'll have to. You might have met him before. He was the beer man for the Coors Light, so he would go around hanging up the banners and doing all the stuff for taking care of the Coors team. And he worked for Chip Ganassi after he bought Savco or joined with Chip or with Felix bought us. All right, so some of the other stuff we got going on here. Joe Gibbs. All right, so these are some of the awards that were recently handed out. Some of the stuff. So Chase Elliott won the most popular driver. Kevin Harvick won the Busch Pole Award. Joe Gibbs received the Bill France Award of Excellence. This award is not handed out annually. This award has significant impact on the NASCAR industry. The most valuable pit crew was Joe Gibbs Racing. Rookie of the Year, Daniel Hemrick. Diamond Performance. I don't know what Diamond Performance is. Kyle Busch. Maybe that just means he said the best performance all year. I don't know. That must be it. Goodyear Gold Car, Kyle Busch. I'm not sure what that one is either. NASCAR driver and broadcasting legend Darrell Waltrip wins the NMPA Myers Brothers Award. Yeah,
I guess that was his parting gift.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
That's what it is.
The same thing. You're like, all right, here's your award. Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So Project Hope Foundation was the recipient of the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award and will receive $100,000. Congratulations to Matt Tift, who recently married Jordan Poole. Congratulations to Austin Dillon and wife Whitney. Their announcement of the first baby due in June 2020. If y'all have any questions for Bill, send them in because I'm going to get right on that. So Scott says, my family owned Winter Circle Deli. That's right, in Lakeside Park back in the day. You remember Winter Circle Deli down there near the, right down the street from the Bahari building?
Yeah.
And I used to see you driving around in the Plymouth Prowler. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you driving around.
Well, I've always liked those. I've had a ton of old cars, a lot of Corvettes and street rods and stuff. I'm a mechanic. I'm a car guy.
Right.
I love cars.
Yeah. Well, I got plenty of cars you can come over and work in my shop. I got plenty of work to do.
Yeah, I saw a picture of a T-Bird. Now, I've always liked it. I've been a fan of those T-Birds.
Yeah.
I've never owned one of them, but I've been a fan of them.
Well, cool, man. It's a 65 T-Bird. Come on over. Do you remember going into Winter Circle Deli? Remember that?
Yes.
place?
Yeah.
Right outside of
it was right down the street from Mahari. It's a multi-use building, and they were part of that. Yeah.
They were on the end over there. I think I know Scott's sister worked there, and I believe his mom and dad also worked. It was a family-owned business, so they worked in there. Right, Scott? Your parents worked in there too, if I'm not mistaken. But his dad, his parents have passed away now, but they have a place in Florida, and that's where Scott actually goes down and stays most of his time. But he comes up, lives about 6 miles from me. Some other news going on. Congrats to Joey. Corey LaJoy has re-signed with Go Fast Racing. NASCAR announced a new series for their name of their premier series now for NASCAR, and announced their sponsorship model. That doesn't make sense. The name. All right. NASCAR announced their new series name for the Premier Series and announced their new sponsorship model. That's why I need to read through some of these sometimes. So starting in 2020, the series will be known as the NASCAR Cup Series and have four major series sponsors, including Busch, Coca-Cola, Geico, and Xfinity. So how about that? They're changing the platform. It's not going to be like the Winston Cup Series, which it hasn't been that for years. And that's when NASCAR started changing when they lost that deal team. But they were not. NASCAR would not restrict teams on having competing sponsors as in previous years, like Sprint, Nextel, and Winston. So I guess they're just going to go to
that's a good thing. That's good for the team owners.
I think so too.
Yeah, I really do. That's a good move right there.
Yep.
It's just a shame it's gotten to the point where you have to have multiple sponsors to be able to run a team.
Yes, I totally agree, man. Yeah. I remember whenever Junior got the Budweiser sponsor, it was like $10 million, and we were like, "What? That's unheard of! $10 million. That's like the biggest sponsor." You know, and that was what 20 years ago. So some of the stuff about you, you tried your hand at racing in the Busch series.
Yeah, I drove a little bit in the Busch series and a few races there.
2 different times.
Late models. I drove a few late models over at Concord. I enjoyed that a lot.
I bet that was that more fun than the Busch series?
Way more fun.
Yeah,
that's probably the best racing you can actually do.
Yeah.
Is a late model asphalt. Now dirt's for growing potatoes. And I know I'll get some comments on that. But dirt's for growing potatoes. I'm an asphalt guy.
Yes. Yeah. All right. What's up, Linda Jinks and Lonnie? Thank y'all for joining in. So it says you tried 2 different times and made it your attempt at Rockingham in 1987 AC Delco 200, where you finished 26th, and the second time in 1996 for Diamond Ridge Motorsports.
Yeah, and New Hampshire, and Darlington, and Charlotte. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. I can remember making a statement one time out there driving. I don't understand why somebody would want to get paid to do something. It's that much fun.
Oh my gosh.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
unreal.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, the worst thing in the world anyone can ever do is sit in the seat of a race car and go down in the corner and it hook and turn and go the other way. That you're hooked. Oh, it's the best feeling in the world.
Well, you know, that's the thing I noticed whenever I went riding. I went for a ride in a car at Charlotte, 94 probably, and I was in the passenger seat, of course. And I remember going into the corner, and thinking, if there's a rock, if there's anything on this track, we're going to hit it, and then we're just going to hit the wall, because it was the grip was amazing. Yeah. And my head's leaning against the roll cage. I just finally said, okay, just forget it. I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah.
But it's like, are we going to be able to turn in this turn? And it turns.
And that's the thing. Crazy. The guys who run up front every week, their cars handle great. They're not even working.
Yeah.
It's the guys that's running 15th and back. They are working their butts off just to stay out of the wall. You know, it's harder to drive when you go handling the car than one that can run up front.
You know, it'd be really cool if like everybody had the exact same cars, just to see which. No, I say this. Now I want to go back to the IROC days or whatever. Right. I mean, or you know, like make them all that way, because I know that definitely is not going to be what the fans want to see, and it's not going to make for that great racing. But I'm just saying that would be kind of neat. And I guess that was the idea with the IROC series, was put all these drivers in the same kind of car and see who wins the race.
Exactly.
Maybe they should just bring that back. You know,
yeah, I think something. Yeah.
Wouldn't be a bad thing. So yeah, don't forget to hit the like on this if you would, and subscribe to David Hamm, or D Hamm I Am, and it's also Hamm the Engine Man on the podcast. So if you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much. And I also have our NASCAR Country page on Facebook that you can always find the links to this video and all kinds of stuff going on every day, NASCAR related. So you were, I think you told this story already. So does anybody have any more questions for Bill? Yeah, we already went through all this stuff here. That stuff's done.
Well, I also heard this weekend, you may have mentioned it, that Felix Sabates is going to step out of the ownership.
That's right.
I heard that this weekend as well.
I heard that. I'm actually surprised that he didn't do that years ago, because, you know, he had some health problems.
Yeah.
I mean, he really almost died a few years back.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of a secret deal, but he was in the hospital, and he was, but yeah, I mean, he's, you know, he has such a love for the sport. I think, you know, he loves the sport, but he loves being around the people and all that stuff. I mean, he's been doing it a long time, you know, but I think he really, I know that he really wanted to, you know, he was winning back in the days in the Melillo car, like in '92, Rockingham, they were winning races and stuff. And I think he got addicted to it back then. And I'll always like Felix. He was always a super cool guy. One of his famous sayings was, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, and I've kind of held that one through my whole life.
Yeah.
I've always try to learn something every day, because you're never too old to learn. You're going to learn stuff every day. And that's something that Felix Sabates taught me. And he had these little sayings hung up throughout the shop. I always thought that was really cool. Now, on the other hand, he did spend a lot of money on his motor coaches and all this stuff. And a lot of times I thought he needs to sink that back into the race team.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
Right.
So in 2020, the All-Star race will not have a entitlement sponsor. I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean they won't have a title sponsor? Like they won't have
to me, that's what they're saying.
Entitlement sponsor.
In other words, it won't be the Coke All-Star race or the Monster All, unless someone steps up.
Okay. It'll just be like the All-Star race at Charlotte.
The NASCAR All-Star race.
So Monster Energy will stay a NASCAR sponsor, but not a premier sponsor. So they'll be one of the mix of the few. Crew Chief Billy Scott, who was let go by Stewart Haas Racing on Wednesday, announced on Thursday that he is now with Richard Childress Racing. As of now, 2020, Cole Custer is replacing Daniel Suarez in the 41 at Stewart Haas. Still no word on where Suarez is heading. Terry Quinn says, my love for the stock car racing began at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. I was thinking Anderson, South Carolina, because they have one also. In the late 70s, Mark Martin raced there. Chad Hatter's in Ohio. He says, hey, Mr. Ingle, thanks for swinging in.
Not a problem.
Oh, and then Tracy said, sorry, y'all, I got a phone call. Now I'm back. Yep. Alrighty.
Personal.
Yes. Scott Turris says, rest in peace, Mr. Bill Simpson. He helped me out on my NASCAR trivia game, High Banks, the Speedway trivia game. Yes, Scott actually came up with a High Banks game. And Scott's with the half of the Hamm and Beerman.
Yeah.
And Scott's the Beerman. And he's come up with a NASCAR game, and that's how he got his start into NASCAR. He got to know Felix Sabatis. And I think Felix ended up buying his High Banks NASCAR game. And then they put Kyle Petty's Melillo car on the cover of the bike. Tracy says, seems people are liking you, Bill. Good job. Well, that's good. I'm glad they're not liking you. Right?
Well, I guess I'm not dead now, am I?
He's still here,
but I'll say
folks.
this: I still do get cards.
Yes.
The baseball cards I have families send them in like they're building a book for their children for Christmas, and I still get cards every week or about every week around this time of year to autograph the cards and send them back to the people. And if you have cards, you want them signed, send them to me. I'll be happy to do it.
And I was thinking about that. I got a bunch of cards. I'll probably get you signed. I do have quite a collection of my NASCAR race cards and stuff like that. Most of that stuff's been up in the attic, but I'll have to bring it down now. But all right, so 2020 has been a crazy, silly season. It appears 2021 is going to be the year of the free agents as contracts of the following drivers expire. This is 2021. Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman. So these are the free agent drivers that could replace Jimmy Johnson in 2020.
Free agents. I guess we've gone in NFL now.
You mentioned that earlier. You saw free agents and was like,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know what? That's the thing about NASCAR. They've been trying to kind of get more like the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about with the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was one of the big changes.
I just don't see the correlation myself.
No. I know, man. We need to go back to the grassroots. Just go back to the way things were. Let's see. Adding this. The Richard Petty Motorsports is said to be announcing a new sponsor in January and will be adding half a dozen new race cars to their stable. The team also is looking to add engineers. Bubba Wallace is signed to remain with the team through 2020. All right, so Halmar Friesen and driver Stuart Friesen are switching from Chevrolet to Toyota and have formed an alliance with Kyle Busch Motorsports. That must be for the Xfinity Series.
Right.
Ross Chastain received most popular driver in the Truck Series. And Tom Majeski will drive for Nice Motorsports.
Nice.
Full-time in 2020. Xfinity, huge news for Anthony Alfredo. He'll drive the number 21s part-time in the Xfinity Series in 2020. And Justin Allgaier winning most popular driver in the Xfinity Series.
That's well deserved. He does a lot for the sport. He's a good little race car driver. I shouldn't say little, but he's a good young race car driver.
Mm-hmm.
He really is.
All right. Very cool. So speaking of Ryan Blaney, that's who Chad like. Oh, Chad got okay. So I'm supposed to sign this diecast for Chad and send it back to him. Speaking of signing things, because I had actually built the engine for Blaney when he won at the Roval race a couple years back. And so Chad got one of these cars, and it come with a little piece of confetti, and it was the exact replica of the car that won at the Roval. So he wants me to sign it and send it back with his sunglasses that he left. Sorry, Chad. You know what? It's sitting on a 54 Ford 604 tractor right now, waiting for me to work on the tractor. I figured when I work on that, then I'll see the box and then I'll send it back. And I haven't worked on the tractor yet either. So I'll get right on that. So I know he did a laugh face, so I know he's doing with me. Okay, so what else? Oh, Homestead Miami will be demolishing grandstands in turn 1 to be replaced with a fan hospitality area. All right. So Homestead, I just read that. Front Row Motorsports officially names John Hunter Nemechek and Michael McDowell as their 2020 drivers officially. Okay. Oh, but this is kind of big news. News caught everyone off guard as Cole Pearn, the crew chief for Martin Truex, of course, announced he is leaving NASCAR, replacement crew chief to be named. Any thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on it is, but it goes with the drivers too. Look at the guys that are retiring and getting out of the sport now young.
Yeah.
You know, they're not waiting until they're 50 or in their 50s. I honestly believe Dale Earnhardt's 5 years younger than myself. He probably would not still be driving,
right,
but I'll bet you he would have driven up till he was close to 60 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and the guys nowadays in their 40s, they quit. And I think it's because of the cars. I call them RC cars.
Yeah.
Because they sit and they beat these guys up so bad that their bodies cannot stand it. I mean, I guess to me, that's the only correlation between NFL and NASCAR is they sit on the ground and those rough racetracks beat the guys up so bad.
Yeah.
They're just so sore on Mondays that they can't stand it.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how young the guys are getting out of the sport now. Is it that they've made so much money they don't want to risk?
Right. I was kind of wondering about that myself too.
See,
and they have families. A lot of times they're getting, they're having their kids, and then that makes them be like, you know what, I want to spend time with my family. So,
well, I can understand that. I can understand that. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then some of them kind of stay in a little bit too long, probably, but that's another story. Congratulations to John Hunter Nemechek on getting engaged. I believe he got engaged recently. So we've actually had him. I was sitting over there, but I was interviewing him on the radio for NASCAR segment of the Sports Recap Show, which happens right here on 92.9 and 550 WAME. All right, so 2020, I don't want to go over that, Rookie of the Year. All right, we'll go over the Rookie of the Year contenders in the Cup Series for 2020. I'm assuming. All right, Christopher Bell,
yeah.
Quinn Hoff, Tyler Reddick,
Brandon Poole, Cole Custer, and John Hunter Nemechek.
Yeah, how about that? So John Hunter's, I guess he's locked into that car now. So it's time. I'd say it's probably time for him to move up.
I would say, looking at that list, they're going to have a time with Cole Custer. I watched that kid grow up, and he's all about racing. That's I do admire that about him. Yeah. He would come in the shop as just a little dude. He's always interested in. He would listen. You could say something to him, and he wasn't one of those kids that would interrupt you.
Yeah.
He would stand there and listen till you finished whatever it was you were trying to tell him to help him to grow as a racer.
Yeah.
And look at the kid. Look what he's done.
I know he's doing great. Was his dad working there?
Yeah. His dad was actually the general manager for Gene Haas. He moved out. He was from California.
Yeah. Worked
for Ford Motor Company out there, and he moved here to help Gene develop that team.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I met them. I actually asked him if he was any kin to General Sherman Custer. And no, George, what is it, General Sherman? Sherman Custer? Whatever the guy's name was. Anyway, or whatever. And so he's like, no, I don't think so. I said, well, I'll be looking into that and to see George Armstrong Custer. I don't know why I said Sherman.
I don't know.
I think, okay, here's the deal. We just watched Gone with the Wind the other night, which I'd seen it many times before. And so I had General Sherman, William Tecumseh Sherman, fresh in my mind. Whatever, that guy just ruined himself, but whatever. That's another story. So George Armstrong Custer. All right, the Gen 7 car engine to happen in 2 stages. I kind of went over this a while back about how the Gen 7 car is going to kind of phase in 2021. They're going to kind of do the car, and then I think they're going to do some engine changes followed. They got first the car in 2021, then the engine to follow a year or 2 later. So one thing I do know about the engine, I think that the current V8 engine, the contract on that is up in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So that engine could change altogether. It could actually go to, I don't know if they're going to change to the V6, or if they're going to go to something more like the double overhead cam, like they run in the GT40s, GT cars. So I don't know. Roger Penske says the Gen 7 has to happen because of its cost efficiency. The change has to be made because revenue is not growing and the cost keeps going up. Cup teams spend $10,000 on building parts that can be made for $1,500. It doesn't make sense. He's in favor of NASCAR making changes that don't hurt the show. New engine rules in the past have cut costs by reducing inventory. So as far as the engine rules, reducing inventory, I do know whenever, I just worked in the engine shop 7 months ago, and now some of the rule changes coming up next year, they're going to run the long blocks, the short blocks many more times, and that keeps you from having to replace pistons and rods and cranks and those kind of things, So yeah, it definitely cuts the cost, and you also don't need as many employees. But as I've said all along, I think that NASCAR is kind of band-aiding a thing where they could do some things to try to bring the fans back to the racetrack, which is going to pay for all the things that they say they can't pay for now. So, there's a lot to that. That could go into a whole other conversation. Chad says, yeah, just messing with you, man. You're a busy cat. Yes, Chad, I am. Thank you for understanding, but I'll get on it. I'm going to be spending more time in my shop. The next 2 days, I'm going to be working in my shop, so maybe I'll get over there and sign that card. Chad also says, I'm a huge Brennan Poole fan, but that's a tough class. Terry says, Chad, I sent a card to DW to be signed. I got it back a year later.
That don't happen with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a one-day turnaround guy.
Yeah,
of course, I don't have the cards that he does, I'm sure.
Right, I guess.
Sure.
So Lonnie says that 19 won't be the same without his crew chief. Probably not. Chad Hatter says, I sent a letter to Shania Twain in 97. And still waiting, LOL. Well, Chad, is probably what you were asking from Shania Twain.
Sure, that's exactly.
She probably wasn't interested to get back. I mean, some things, you can't send in the mail, by the way. So let's see. Fans don't know about the super drive shaft or 4 types of brakes. When there are 4 to 5 combination of brakes and 4 teams, those are things that cost money. All right. Roger Penske says NASCAR, that goes back to the reducing inventory thing. Roger Penske says NASCAR should use IndyCar as a template for cost reduction. Indy can run a championship team for $1 million versus NASCAR's $3 million. He might have a good point there. I don't know. Mm. Well, Roger Penske is he just bought, what did he buy? He bought Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yeah, so we'll see how that ties into the NASCAR in the future. In an article in February, Tommy Joseph, who led the development of the Mustang as aerodynamics supervisor, says NASCAR could look to altering the roofline and greenhouse to more of a fastback style, since the other 2 manufacturers drive Chevy Camaro and Toyota Camry coupes. So yeah, Ford doesn't want the engine to be production based. All right, Doug Yates says that he'd like to avoid balance of performance, but add production-based elements under the hood. All right, so Roger Penske says Gen 7 is for NASCAR, which I'm not really sure. I think this probably means it should be for the fans. Roger Penske is saying Gen 7 is for NASCAR, unless it means Roger Penske says the Gen 7 car is what NASCAR needs. But yeah. The show, the length races, night races, short tracks, maybe that ties back into what he's saying about it tying into the IndyCar.
Well, the situation with fans, NASCAR needs to do whatever they need to do to get the fans back in the stands.
Yeah, that's
and
for
people
sure.
paying attention to it.
And I'll tell you,
that's the bottom line.
Yeah,
to me,
I haven't seen a lot of positive reaction to the Gen 7 on it. It just looks different.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out for the fans. So RD Ford. Chad says Rusty is always good about sending stuff back fast, though. I was shocked. Unlike Hamm, right?
Yeah.
All right. So RD Ford says, have to LOL, David. You're still in building a NASCAR broadcast. Nice meeting you online, Bill. Awesome for you being on. Cheers. Thanks, RD. Appreciate you watching and commenting.
Appreciate it.
The engine, so back to the engine, where the engine will have a maximum output of 550 horsepower. The current is 990, but has been restricted over the past 5 years with a tapered spacer. Okay, I might need to read this sentence, but Toyota Vice President Ed Laux says there is a need for more action-packed races. It's about expanding, returning to where it started.
They got a lot of work to do to get back to where it started.
Yeah.
They need to get some pictures of the 1980s race cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need to put back on the racetrack.
Oh.
You can basically walk under in front of them cars.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and if they went back to the 500 horsepower,
Yeah.
you could run them and they'd stay on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, figure out a way to evacuate air from underneath them.
Mm-hmm.
And put them back up. Another thing, so they're not beating the drivers up so bad. Where
That's
the drivers
true, like you
they
said,
have more
yes.
control of the car.
Yeah.
I mean, the cars are basically they're driving them bottomed out.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
the tire is the only shock absorber basically left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if they had the cars where they were actually sprung and suspended,
Right.
to me, it'd make better racing.
Yeah, and you see these the pictures from the road course races. It's just like, good Lord.
Yeah.
So, well, at least they did one thing. They got rid of that whole splitter deal that you'd get destroyed when it run off in the grass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a big old mess there.
Yeah.
So the current short track road course cars are 750 horsepower and larger tracks 550 horsepower. All right, the next generation engine will be built so that it's allowed to be even more electric in the future. I mean, could you imagine being a NASCAR race and the cars are they're going around, you don't
hear anything? Yeah.
Or maybe the tires moving, that's it.
And no smell. And no smell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the smell is big. That's one of the big parts of
It is.
So they choose 550 horsepower in hopes of attracting more manufacturers. All right, with teams merging and selling, some such as Furniture Row shutting down, NASCAR needs a car that is economical. They are hoping a Gen 7 car will be the answer. Time will tell, but we've seen some of this stuff coming up, especially in the changes with the engines, and that was kind of a factor in me thinking that maybe it was a good time for me to move on to other things.
Wow.
Yeah, it was getting to be that time. It's either get out while I have the chance to actually get out and not forced out.
Yeah.
I mean, probably would have been a couple more years, but still. So Scott Trevisan says, thanks, Bill, for hanging with my buddy David Hamm, the engine man.
You're welcome, Scott. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Scott. All right, so yeah, Chad says, get them up and play with the shocks and springs again.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Bill, you got anything else to add? Did I ask you everything? I think I about covered everything. Y'all have any more questions?
We don't want to get too personal, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of stories. We could go over here to the bar and say,
oh, yes.
We can't put them on radio.
Right, I know. That's good stuff, though.
Yeah,
I mean, Bill's got a lot of good stories. He's worked with, so you worked with David Pierce. Well, you told me a little bit about David Pierce.
Yeah, David actually filled in for us when I worked at Junior Johnson's, and Neil Bonnet drove the 12 car.
Mm-hmm.
Neil had gotten his thumb broke at Martinsville. And we go to Pocono, Neil couldn't drive, so David filled in for us. And, he'd been out of a race car for a while, but he said he would do it. And it was a good story. He came up there and got in the car and ran a couple laps, and he'd get out and light him a cigarette up, stand at the back of the car. And
yeah,
he said, David, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. Let me get done with this, and I'll take her another lap.
Uh-huh.
He finished his cigarette, and he'd get back in the car, and he'd go out and make a lap.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? He said, size bars in the car. Told him, so he said, put 8 smaller bar in it. Put a smaller bar in it. He goes out and runs it, comes back in. What do you think? He said, it's pretty good. Well, David, you're a second off. He said, it'll be all right. Just put some tires on it. It'll be good to go.
You're talking about the sway bar.
Sway bar, yeah, the sway bar.
Yeah.
So qualifying comes up, and we're all on the team. We're second off here.
Yeah.
Well, we go out and line up on pit road to qualify. This was at Pocono.
Mm-hmm.
And Hoss Ellington, I believe Sterling Marlin was driving Hoss Ellington's car at that time, and he was on the pole. We were like third from the end to go. And people were walking up congratulating Hoss on winning the pole. And Hoss says, get away from me. Don't be congratulating me on anything, because that old man back there hadn't run yet. Talking about David Pierce,
David
Silver
Pierce,
Fox. Yeah. So David goes out there and he sets the car on the pole. And we were second off in practice.
Yeah.
That's the kind of race car driver he was.
Yeah.
He didn't whine, he didn't complain, he just drove.
Yeah.
He just drove the race car.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tommy Foss says NASCAR has pushed the little guy out, I think. Tommy Foss listens to our radio station every day.
Well, there's no doubt in that. You won't see the Richard Childresses or the people like that who started Bud Moores and people who started years ago with just a few $100 or a few $1,000s. It was never in the hundreds, but a few $1,000s and 8 or 10 people that were willing to work, put the time in. You'll never see that happen again. It's long gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Paul Rodriguez says the smell of burning rubber and oil is what makes a night at the races. Terry was curious about your favorite track.
My favorite track.
Yeah. What is your favorite track?
My favorite track, honestly, is Darlington.
Yeah.
I've driven that track before.
Yeah.
I just love because it's so different. You know,
really
it's egg shaped. It's really too tough to tame.
Yeah.
And the way it's shaped, the way you drive it, you know, the two different corners.
Yeah.
But Charlotte, I loved going to Charlotte because it worked you so hard. We started in the daytime with the sun and the heat, went into the night,
right? Yeah.
Racing. So the changes in the temperature and the track and all that, it would work you to death. But boy, when you ran good there, and I guess because it was our home track, lived 3 miles from it, it was just a good feeling to go there and run. I remember sitting on the pole with Ricky Rudd there, and that was awesome.
Oh yeah,
that was awesome.
The old tag car.
Yeah,
right. That was one of my favorite cars back in the day. Very cool. Susie, thanks for tuning in, and RD and all y'all, Terry Quinn, Bill. She said thanks, Bill. Terry Quinn. Yeah,
not a problem, Terry.
Yeah, so y'all don't forget to hit that subscribe, hit that like button. Tune into the Hamm the Engine Man on podcast, and tune in on my social networks or DHAM I am, and you can find, I guess, Bill's on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook.
Yeah. So,
and you can normally find me where this band's playing.
Oh,
this is my favorite band.
Red Dirt Revival.
I'm all about music's my therapy nowadays.
Yeah.
I use music for my therapy, and Red and those boys, they do a wonderful job. So if you want to hear good country music, find Red Dirt Revival.
Oh yeah, they're a good one. They're very good. They come and played which you were here, of course, at our Pumpkin Fest, and Robert Elliott and Clint Rhodes and Buck Knighton, those guys. I don't remember the violin player. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either, but he's awesome.
Yeah,
he is awesome.
And
good singer.
Yeah,
he actually builds those things. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he does build them.
And Red plays a lot where you see Daryl Harwood playing. They'll be playing. And have you heard Mother Trucker yet? Any of those guys?
Yeah, I've heard them all.
Very cool. Yeah. So Scott says, Bill, please come back on and tell more stories. Yes, we'll have to have another episode where we can tell stories and stuff like that. So.
Well, we really did discuss this before we decided to do it.
True.
So we can sit around, we'll go to the bar and have a beer and pick up some topics.
Yeah, I know. We had my radio show from 5 to 6, and then we jumped grabbed a bite to eat. We actually had to bring it back to the studio and hurry up and eat because we were running low on time. So, but yeah, we'll do it again. It's a good time. Thanks for joining me.
Not a problem, Dave.
All right, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see y'all next time. Maybe next Monday or the Monday after. So during the off season, but during the race season, I do it every Monday night at 7:30. NASCAR Live Chats with Hamm. And sometimes the beer man joins me, but I'm gonna try to have other guests. Sometimes I'll have musical guests, NASCAR friends, and those kinds of things. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time. All right. Okay. Here we go.